Ground Branch, a unit that is often depicted in movies, where the most sophisticated and elite agents descend from. Although hailed in secrecy and covertness, there are some things publicly known about this elite shadow unit. This unit is often compared to the United Kingdom's E Squadron, of which I made another video. Throughout history, as depicted in other videos I made, the CIA is known for their almost lawless efforts of contributing to U.S. safety. The CIA is even found sometimes to continue where the Joint Special Operations Command is halted in their tracks. These are the men and women who are called the third option. What makes this unit so special? And what can we tell about these paramilitary operations officers, or PMOOs, that are in it? Let's dive a little deeper into their world and focus on some of their history as well. The organization and history. Ground Branch is part of what is being called the Special Activities Center, formerly known as the Special Activities Division. This falls under the Directorate of Operations, or DO, which oversees clandestine and covert activities. Whenever people agree to do a job in this unit, they also sign for full anonymity, even when they bring the ultimate sacrifice of death. These men and women will not receive any parades, and quite frankly, they wouldn't want that in the first place, although they would have earned it. It is because of these officers that a third option exists. Whenever diplomats or even the Department of Defense failed, the third option is putting together officers of this unit to get the job done. That would mostly have something to do with them being able to operate above the law, as the U.S. government will exercise plausible deniability whenever these officers are caught. And that would also mean that from then on, they are on their own. The U.S. government will always deny any involvement, and nothing that this unit does can be traced back to the U.S. That means that weapons, passports, transportation, and all other operational needs need to be obtained through alternative routes. The U.S. will not have any financial records that would lead to spending money for this unit, ever. Whenever you enter the CIA's headquarters in Langley, Virginia, you are greeted by 139 stars on the wall. Over half of them are officers from the Special Activities Center who brought the ultimate sacrifice. There are no names, as stated before. This goes to show that although very logical, this work comes with the highest risk. Of course, the same goes for the agency's non-paramilitary personnel. As you might imagine, not all CIA personnel know what this unit does. It takes a special kind of clearance to even get to know what they are up to, and even more thorough clearance to get to know this team from the inside. Most people will shrug when you ask them about this unit, but to know more about them, we first need to dive into a little history. The history of the CIA all starts with William Wild Bill Donovan. William Donovan was officially appointed to become the head of the Office of the Coordinator of Information, or COI, in July of 1941 by President Roosevelt. It was a year later, in June of 1942, when it was renamed to the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS. Both these services were the predecessors of what is now known as the CIA, and it was formed to act as the National Intelligence Center in the Second World War. It was predominantly tasked with conducting foreign intelligence and espionage missions during that time. At the same time, the OSS had already established a paramilitary branch within the organization, and their activities consisted of sabotaging targets, joining local resistance forces, covert actions, and I quote, causing general mayhem wherever they were sent to. This specific branch was simply called the Special Operations Branch, and due to their immaturity were heavily influenced by the Special Operations Executive of the United Kingdom, its British equivalent. Due to their involvement, these two paramilitary branches worked together often, in which were called the Jedburgh teams. These were three-man teams of paramilitary commandos, and one of their first known operations was parachuting behind enemy lines in France to fight off the Nazis. They were called the Jedburgh teams because of the joint operation being called Operation Jedburgh. These so-called Jeds, as they were often abbreviated to, had a striking motto that stated, "Surprise, kill, and vanish." We will make another video dedicated to the history of the CIA and their paramilitary branches. Another important note is that the Office of Strategic Services established a dedicated psychological operations branch, specifically tasked with spreading black propaganda. This has probably formed into what we now know as the Political Actions Group. Next to this, MACVSOG is also crucial to the current-day implementation and structure of paramilitary operations officers. The PMOOs were deployed under their covers as local advisors in Vietnam, and later even in Cambodia and China, and originally came from a unit called the Special Operations Group. This was, however, quickly changed to Military Assistance Command Vietnam, Studies and Observation Group, to make plausible deniability easier. Throughout the course of history, they were involved in numerous attempts to overthrow leaders of countries throughout the whole world, which has raised countless questions on all levels of the government. Structure. Now, with some of the important history covered, let's focus on the more recent and current-day paramilitary structure. As part of the Directorate of Operations, the Special Activities Center is divided in 4 main branches. I cover this in another video. Ground Branch is one of the 4 branches which specifically focuses on, you might have guessed it, land-borne operations. They are often attached to JSOC's missions, as well as work with other branches of the military, like the Rangers and Green Berets. It is also thought of as a passive way of recruiting new members, which is the exact pool of people they like to fish in for new personnel. Their most prominent work was most probably in the wake of 9/11, where only approximately 2 weeks would pass before PMOOs would land and have boots on the ground in Afghanistan. Armed with suitcases full of money, a bunch of AKs and some other equipment, they were tasked with linking up with old contacts in the Northern Alliance. The list of the organizational structure is outdated, but this overview will give you a glimpse of the structure of the CIA, as well as where the SAC is positioned within the organization. It's good to note that the CIA is a very secretive organization, and the SAC is probably even more secretive on top of that. So the details will most probably never be shown. A restructure of the organization would change the Special Activities Division, or SAD, into now known Special Activities from 2015 onwards. Way of working. The SAC and Ground Branch in general have a very interesting list of potential work-related activities. Some of them are personnel and material retrieval, sabotage, training of military personnel of foreign governments, and the more general job description includes deniable covert operations on foreign soil. As you might agree, this is very broadly speaking, and we can imagine how this is raising questions throughout the U.S. government for those that are uninformed. More often than not, the people that are raising those questions are not allowed to know the answers, and will also never get them. That makes the job a bit easier. Ground Branch aims not to stick out in their operating environments, so, as part of their training, they'll be able to handle most, if not all, weapon systems and work with what is on site. Ironically, Ground Branch is known for wearing desert tiger stripe camo exclusively, together with the Global Response Staff. For the people that know, that is a dead giveaway of their presence. The skills needed to become an efficient PMOO are everything you can think of when thinking about Delta or DevGru operators. But then even at a higher level, it's no wonder that seasoned operators out of these units make up the majority of people that operate in these units, solely for the reason that you will need the experience. That is, however, changing in more recent years, as seen in their recruitment profiles. They are eager on receiving younger candidates from Special Forces teams, who are less seasoned but hungry for a role in the agency and go through the ranks. The Ground Branch officers are specialists in CQB, intelligence gathering, proficient in multiple languages, and highly proficient in survival, escape, rescue and evasion, or SERE, pronounced SERE. All the above will be trained extensively when they arrive at Camp Peary, where their training is presumably conducted. Making disguises, offensive and defensive driving, and crafting explosive devices are all part of their tradecraft. The mission is to get it done, survive, and stay unnoticed. It seems like this is in a direct line with the surprise, kill, vanish of the Jedburgh teams a couple of decades before them. In hostile environments, we can only imagine the sheer pressure this puts on the PMOOs. Operations. Much or even all of it is unknown, for obvious reasons, but we can make educated guesses based on the headlines and current conflicts. That is, of course, something I will leave up to you all to let your imagination run wild. I think it's safe to say that the ground branch has been involved in all major conflicts, one way or another, big or small. Or otherwise, it will be one of their three counterparts. The global war on terror has been a very busy period for these officers, where their work mostly involved everything from supporting the conventional forces or otherwise carrying out operations in which their presence or actions could be denied. Think about contacting warlords, bribing or persuading terrorists and providing intelligence, and forming allegiances which would benefit the U.S. and their successes in their war. It is truly an amazing unit of which we would all like to know all the details, but actually do not want it because when kept secret, it's all the more interesting. So, that was it. I focused on their history a bit more than the actual current day formation of the unit, since most of it is secret and classified, which would otherwise make a very short video. I will, in the future, make a video about more of their history and dive a little deeper into the details. If you like that idea, please let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching and see you in the next video.